Here we go. I'd like to call to order the Planning Commission of the City of Wheat Ridge, September 4th, 2025. If you will stand as you're able and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic one nation under God. Thank you, everyone. We have a roll call of the members, please.
Anna Sparks.
Here.
Krista Hollub.
Here.
Christine Disney.
Here.
Daniel Gravy.
Present.
Patrick Quinn.
Here.
Susan Wood.
Here.
Sierra Quiones.
Here.
And Michael Moore is absent tonight.
Thank you very much. We've had in our packets the agenda for this evening. If there are no objections, we'll have the agenda stand as presented. Seeing none, the agenda will stand as presented. Next order of business will be the minutes from August 21st, 2025. I would entertain a motion to accept them as presented.
Move to approve minutes from August 21st, 2025.
Thank you, Commissioner. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Have a proper motion and second. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, take a poll of the commission.
Motion approved 5-0 with 2 abstaining.
Thank you. We now move into the public forum portion of the commission. I don't think we have anybody signed up to speak on anything not on the agenda tonight. Do we have anybody on Zoom?
No, nobody on Zoom.
Okay, then I will close the public forum and we'll move to our first order of business. Would you mind presenting our first item agenda, Commissioner Disney?
WZ-24-10, an application filed by Bank of America for approval of a specific development plan for a 4,292 square foot bank with drive-through on a property zone planned mixed-use development and located southwest of the West 40th Avenue and Interstate 70 intersection.
Thank you. We have a staff presentation.
We do.
Thanks.
Hi, Planning Commissioners. My name is Stephanie Stevens. I'm a planner in the City of Wheat Ridge Community Development Department. Presenting case number WZ-2410, which is a request for approval of a specific development plan for a bank with drive-through southwest of the West Interstate 70 and 40th Avenue intersection in the Clear Creek Crossing development. I would like to enter into the public record the contents of the case file, the zoning ordinance, and this digital presentation. The property is within City of Wheat Ridge. All appropriate notification and posting requirements have been met. Therefore, Planning Commission has jurisdiction to hear this case. The subject site is outlined in red on the screen. Site is currently vacant. And to the north across West 40th Avenue is the newly constructed Intermountain Health Hospital and Medical Office Building. Specific development plans, or SDPs, are under review for a Bird Call restaurant with drive-through on the adjacent lot to the west and a Dave & Buster's on the vacant adjacent lot to the south. Also to the west, Crossing Drive infrastructure plans were recently approved to create an enhanced roadway and pedestrian corridor, or PASEO, connecting from 40th Avenue to Clear Creek Drive, as well as a private drive to serve the proposed development on the south side, which will soon be under construction. A Home 2 hotel is also under construction just west of Crossing Drive at the northeast corner of 40th Avenue and Clear Creek Drive. The subject site is located within Clear Creek Crossing planned mixed-use development zoning, shown in green on the screen, and is located within Planning Area 3, which is also called the Vineyard District. The site is surrounded by Clear Creek Crossing. besides I-70 to the east. The request for SDP approval is the second step in a two-part approval process pertaining to plan developments. The first step occurred in 2018 when Planning Commission and Council approved the Clear Creek Crossing Plan Mixed Use Outline Development Plan, which established the zoning. The zone change also included approval of a vision book that establishes the intended design and architectural themes and materials, as well as a design pattern book that includes the more substantive development regulations. Planning Commission and City Council approved an ODP amendment in January, which altered the uses and development standards in Clear Creek Crossing zoning and design pattern book and allowed the primary restaurant and entertainment district of Clear Creek Crossing to be relocated to the furthest west side of the development, and subsequently allowed for a limited number of drive-throughs in this planning area to ultimately facilitate development of the subject SDP. The applicant is requesting to build a 4,292 square foot bank with drive-through. Banks with drive-throughs are permitted in Planning Area 3 or the Vineyard District, which includes the subject site. I'll walk through proposed conditions in more detail in the next few slides, but the site also takes into consideration adequate vehicular access, planning area connectivity, and pedestrian connections. Starting with access, the vacant 1.2 acre site is proposed to be developed by Bank of America, shown in the star in the screen. The main vehicular access comes from the southern private drive leading to Crossing Drive to the west, to create a looped drive around the perimeter of the site, connecting to and through the development to the west, as shown in the dashed red line. Crossing Drive will feed into signalized intersections and will extend southwest across Clear Creek Drive to connect to the Lookout Restaurant corridor that's currently under construction. Pedestrian connections are proposed to the north, west, south, and east to tie into surrounding streets and planning areas. Note that Bird Call, which is slated to go into the site just west, is going through corporate organizational changes and that this project is currently on hold. Yet no matter the case, will be subject to holding the same circulation network that's shown here. The building is located along West 40th Avenue, which is at the top of the screen, separated by a drive aisle and landscaping, including a retaining wall that will be built by the Metro District to avoid steep slopes in this area. The building is shown in gray on the slide. One access point is proposed from the southern drive access that connects out to Crossing Drive to the west. The SDP reflects 24 proposed parking spaces with parking located west and south of the building and screened by the building and landscaping from the major streets. The parking area also includes sidewalks shown with the blue arrows on this slide, allowing pedestrian access from the site to private streets, public streets, and signalized intersections surrounding. The design pattern book establishes setback and building orientation requirements specific to each development site within Clear Creek Crossing, and for Planning Area 3 or the Vineyard District, the Build 2 requirement along 40th Avenue is a 0 to, well, basically 50% of the buildings along 40th Avenue street frontage are required to be within 0 to 50 feet of the street or property line. And this is based on the aggregate frontages of Bank of America, Bird Call site, and Home 2. So Bank of America and Home 2 provide 54% of their buildings within the Build 2 based on their combined frontages, which are the two SCPs that have come before you so far. The project meets the minimum requirement for 20% of the gross lot size to be landscaped. It utilizes perimeter landscaping, parking lot island, streetscape trees, and planting beds near the building with a variety of trees, shrubs, ornamental grasses, and perennials. Enhancements to the private drive are proposed as well along the southern side of the site to include additional landscaping and be constructed by the master developer under separate permit. The project is providing more trees and shrubs than what is required. And the design pattern book also includes plaza requirements for this planning area, which was already achieved by the Home 2 development. Architectural style is driven by the Clear Creek Crossing Design Pattern Book and Vision Book, which call for a modern agrarian aesthetic that blends traditional agrarian forms and materials with a modern feel. It requires strong attention be paid to the pedestrian realm. The building is proposed to be 26 feet tall And the architecture is comprised primarily of stone, metal, wood, glass, and fiber cement panel with brick and stucco accents and changes in the roof line to create interest. We have a material board here if you want to take a glance at the actual materials proposed. This is north and west elevations shown on the screen with the main entries. The building contains stone and brick base elements with a glass storefront to enhance that pedestrian realm and metal awnings to enhance the entries and tie into the modern agrarian theme. This is the east and south elevations where the drive-through will go. The drive-through canopy on the east side includes enhanced brick columns and the canopy structure. The colors incorporate Bank of America's typical branding color palette in a unique way by naturalizing it to fit the theme of Clear Creek Crossing. The materials carry over to all sides of the building resulting in four-sided architecture. Since Wheat Ridge is not a since Wheat Ridge is served by special districts, we sent the application on referral to outside agencies, as well as completed our internal review. We did not receive objections from outside agencies, and coordination with these districts is ongoing. Civil construction documents are nearing approval, and a recommended condition of approval has been added to denote that minor changes may be required to coordinate this development with surrounding infrastructure improvements being constructed by the master developer and to match civils with the approved SDP. Before the hearing, the property was posted for 15 days and letters were sent to property owners and tenants within a 1,000-foot radius, and the project was posted on Wheat Ridge Speaks. We did not receive any comments in advance of this hearing. And ultimately, staff finds that the SDP is consistent with the outlined development plan and is in compliance with all standards set forth in the ODP, the Design Pattern Book and Vision Book, and City Code. The SDP is consistent with the purpose of a planned development, and all agencies can serve the property. So therefore, staff is recommending approval with conditions as listed in the staff report. And that concludes my presentation. Myself and the applicant are here for questions, but the applicant does not have a presentation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you just hurt my chi because I was all ready to say, you know, the applicant have a presentation, but since they don't, now we will have to open for the public comment. And I don't see any public. Do we have anybody on Zoom?
Nobody online.
All right, I will close the public comment and I will open it up to any questions that the commission may have, starting with Ms. Woods.
Well, I'm almost hesitant to ask this question, but I just want to get a greater understanding of this. And it's both the internal circulation, how that will work, vehicular and pedestrian as well, and then the access points. And I was curious to the street. And I was curious if that's an additional signalized intersection on, is it Crossing Drive? And I'm guessing maybe not, but it was just seeking greater clarity. But I also want to say before I stop talking, I really appreciate the point-by-point explanation and how the proposal met with all of the development criteria. I know that's probably always done, but I'm still new enough to the Planning Commission here to not know this, and it really was helpful in reading it, so thank you.
Good, thank you. Yes, this slide on the screen right now shows where those signalized intersections are located. There's one on 40th Avenue as you go, so you'll go west. If you're exiting this site, you'll go west to Crossing Drive. You can go north or south, and both of those intersections at 40th Avenue and Clear Creek Drive will have signals at those locations. Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Commissioner Quinones.
I have no questions.
Commissioner Gravy.
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Hull.
Thank you. One question I had about the overall plan, I want to make sure I understand how the drive-through permitting works. So if this site is a drive-through and then Bank of America leaves, does the drive-through stay with the site, or could somebody take that permit or whatever it is called to a different site so long as it doesn't go over the 2 per district?
That's a great question. So the ODP actually limits, so this is planning area 3, basically everything that you're seeing on the screen that's east of Clear Creek Drive. And then planning area 6, which is like where the lookout is to be located, between those two planning areas, a total of 5 drive-throughs can be proposed. If Bank of America were to leave, it could be relocated to another location within those two planning areas. And right now with Bank of America, Bird Call, and Bonfire, I think those are kind of like the 3 sort of slated right now. So they would be allowed 2 more if Bird Call moves forward.
Okay, so it's not attached to the site necessarily.
Not the specific site,
Okay,
correct?
that's helpful.
I checked it. It's absolutely, yeah, planning area 6.
How wide is the pedestrian access? The round that goes around the
The
site?
one on the east side of Bank of America that goes
Yeah.
from 40th Avenue, that's a 6-foot concrete
6 foot.
walk.
And
Yeah.
That's standard.
Yes.
Okay, great. And then I just had more of a planning commission question, I think, which is when an agency says like no comment in their review, is there acknowledgement that they've reviewed it, or we send it to them and then they don't comment?
When it says no comment, we literally receive no comment at all from them. We continue to tell applicants to keep reaching out when it's an important agency that, will be subject to service district requirements and that kind of thing. But sometimes if it's like Jeffco Planning or someone that's an outside jurisdiction that doesn't have a lot of control, then we don't pursue further comment from them.
Okay, so it's suffice to say you're not worried about any of the no comments on
That's
this?
correct.
Okay, perfect.
Good
Thank
question.
you. That's all my questions.
Commissioner Sparks.
Thank you. I'm kind of curious, it's right next to the major highway. What's the grade difference, like, say, from the rooftop to the highway or whatever measure you have for me?
Do you remember what that grade change is? And I think the grade is more significantly changed as you move further south. So like the Dave & Buster's that is proposed SDP in for review right now, they have a retaining wall on that side, but the Bank of America didn't justify a retaining wall for the grade changes. So it gets more steep as you move further south from this development.
So it's 20 feet vertical difference between I-70 and this site ground?
From like the one that's shown on the screen that's called future development, I would say that one is about a 20-foot grade difference.
Okay. I get you now. I get you.
Yeah, Derek, would you mind coming up here? Just for those that may not have heard, because we're recording this meeting.
Right.
The difference in the grade is basically 15 to 20 feet for the entire span of this planning area. And if y'all have been out there anytime lately at the hospital, they just put up a new monument sign over there it's a pretty tall monument sign, but you basically 15 feet of it is totally hidden by the interstate. So that gives you a kind of gauge of that grade difference.
Thank you.
Commissioner Disney.
No questions.
I just want to say thanks for the report. My real job, we have a lot of work there, so I drive by it quite a bit. So just want to say thanks for the report. You folks at planning do a wonderful job bringing us the information to make our job a lot easier. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will close the public hearing and would entertain a motion.
I move to approve case number WZ 2410, a request for approval of a specific development plan for a bank with drive-through on property zone planned mixed-use development and located at approximately 1300 West 40th Avenue for the following reasons. 1, the specific development plan is consistent with the purpose of a planned development as stated in Section 26301 of the Code of Laws. The development plan is consistent with the intent and purpose of the outlined development plan. The proposed uses are consistent with those approved by the outline development plan. 4, all responding agencies have indicated they can serve the property with improvements installed at the developer's expense. 5, this is the specific development plan is in substantial compliance with the applicable standards set forth in the outline development plan and with the city's adopted design manuals, with the following conditions. 1, minor site adjustments may be required to the civil construction plans to coordinate this development with surrounding infrastructure improvements and the replat. 2, the developer shall enter into a development agreement with the city to be recorded with the county clerk and recorder prior to issuance of building permits. And 3, building permit submittal shall be consistent with the SDP.
Thanks for the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And thank for the second. Do we have any discussion on the motion at all? Yes, Commissioner Hollow.
I just wanted to thank the Planning Commission for also working with the developer to not abandon sort of the views from the non-dominant side, so that it's not turning its back on the rest of the city. So thank you for that.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, poll of the commission, please.
Motion approved, 7-0.
Thank you. I believe those are all of the public hearings we have in front of us. So we'll now cruise on to old business. Jana, do we have any old business?
No, Mr. Chair, we do not have any old business. Would you like me to move on to the dates?
Sure. And then dates, and then we have our,
We do have, we have another presentation for the boards and commissions update. Would you like to hear that first?
let's do that.
Okay, thank you.
We'll get the hard stuff out of the way.
Okay.
Do we start? Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, you're up,
Um,
brother. I'm sorry.
Sorry, no, I was waiting. I was
I'm
waiting for
asleep
some
here.
sort of a cue, but that's all right. No worries. I think we'll start with the legislative committee aspect of this, and I'll actually turn it over to Councilor Hulteen to begin that part.
Perfect. Sorry, Counselor, if I'm
That's all
out of
right.
my zone here.
That's all right. Good evening, everyone. Councilmember Rachel Hulteen, District 2. Just first, thank all of you for your service to our city. This is a heavy lift committee, so just recognition and gratitude for your time and your skills. I'm here tonight because this year Wheat Ridge stood up for the first time a legislative committee, and this was really born out of the recognition that there are a lot of decisions that are made at the state capitol that have a significant and direct impact on our community. And while the city of Wheat Ridge, like most cities and towns in the state of Colorado, we're a member of the Colorado Municipal League, which is technically the lobbying entity for the city. There are very specific things that are debated and decided and enacted through state law that really impact us here. And without a legislative committee with a specific agenda, we were kind of ad hoc participating in that process. And so we started in January, so we're officially the newest committee. And it is composed of, right now, Mayor Starker, myself, and Councilmember Dan Larson. And we, what we have tasked ourselves with is to review the key legislation, take positions on key legislation, but more importantly, to identify 3 to 5 different bills that are going through the legislative session to really try and either support them, amend them, or oppose them because their passage would have the impact on our city. Those decisions are guided by a legislative agenda, which we drafted and adopted for this last legislative session. The legislative agenda is a collection of priorities and guidelines that we use to compare against the bills so that we know which bills are most important to take action. Any of you, I'm looking at you, Dan, who are involved with the legislative session, a lot of bills get started, not all of them make them across the finish line, but there's a lot of information. So one of the most important things we're doing is trying to figure out which are the bills that have the most impact on our city. That is our number one threshold test, is that a bill needs to have significant impact either through its passage or by trying to keep it from passing. So we have another legislative session starting this January, like every January. They run from the second week of January through the second week of May. And we will be updating the legislative agenda as we enter into the 2026 legislative session. I, as the chair of the legislative committee, realized that our legislative agenda is only as good as the information that goes into it. This was our first year. We were kind of flying by the seat of our pants. But I felt it was really important for us to actually reach out to our boards and commissions. You guys are street sleuthing. You have incredible insight and expertise on what's important in our city. So we are here tonight to present the legislative agenda to you and to seek, first of all, answer questions, but really seek guidance and input from the planning committee on what are some strategic important items that we should be really looking for as we filter through all those bills and pick which ones we're actually going to take lobbying action on. So I think that is I always check with Cole, who's my legislative brain, to make sure I hit all the key points of that. But, and I think the other thing I want to make sure I mention is that we're doing this now. We're seeking input by the end of October. And then once legislative session starts, we're pretty much like heads down, just paying attention to the bills. So our interaction with the boards and commissions will be lighter. However, if a key bill is coming through that we feel like coming back to you for input, we might do that. Or if we decide to take action, we may be looking for experienced voices to help connect with our elected officials who are representing us at the state capitol to share the city's position. So those are some things that could happen once the legislative session gets going. And then the thing I'm adding at the end of it is that you all are also citizens and residents of our beloved city. If being more involved in legislative activities is of interest to you, I'd be happy to have a coffee and talk a little bit more about how you can be more engaged and use your voice to represent your interests and your community's interest at the state capitol. So with that, I'm happy to hand it over to Cole, who will take you through more of the nuts and bolts on it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Councilor Hulteen. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the screen on the Zoom here and bring up a document so that we can take a look at it together, our legislative agenda. So you'll bear with me for one moment. And if everyone's able to see that, thumbs up, fantastic, love that. And I love to start with this, the best picture that's ever been taken in the city of Wheat Ridge, because how does it get any better than a couple of our public works folks with some baby ducks that they've rescued from a gutter. So we had our own Dawn moment, if you'll remember that from the oil spill in the 2000s. And Councilor Hulteen's tired of that joke because she's heard me tell it like 5 times now. But I still think it's a good one. So this is our 2025 legislative agenda. I wanted to show you folks this document because we are going to ask you to take a look at it and give us your feedback on the community development section in particular. So let's go to that page and we'll take a look at it together. So here is what your community development page looks like. And this is the same format on this page as well as all of the other pages in the document. We start off at the top with a description of what community development is. Then we have a section called proposed legislation with our green check mark. And that describes the type of legislation that we would like to see the state pass in regards to community development and local planning. Below it is another box with a big red X. And within that box is described the legislation that we would oppose from the state of Colorado. Together, these form the outline of the types of bills we would like to see pertaining to community development. And with that, I will stop sharing my screen and come back over to the table to continue. So to continue, that is what our legislative agenda looked like. As was said earlier, we're requesting that the Planning Commission takes a look at that document and forwards any feedback that they had to it to your staff liaison, Mrs. Easley, so that she can send it back toward our way. Our hope is to get all that feedback from you by the end of October. That way we can include it in our update to the legislative agenda, which will be adopted hopefully before the session starts in January. In addition to that, as was said previously, during the legislative session, it moves really rapidly. So there's not a lot of time for us to have back and forths with the Planning Commission or other boards and commissions here at the city. That's why we're asking for your feedback on the agenda now so that we can use that as our guide as we're moving through the session. But there will be moments during the session where we may take positions on bills that are related to community development issues or other issues. And we may invite members of the commission to sign on to letters for testimony or to come with us to the Capitol to provide testimony so that our state legislators can hear how their decisions impact our local planning and zoning. I think that's everything that we wanted to share with you. But again, we're happy to come back or meet with you one-on-one if you have any additional questions. There was one question that we received from a commission member in advance of the meeting. It was in regards to which positions we took on bills during the 2025 legislative session and what the outcome of those was. We took positions on 5 different bills. And I'm just going to say what their title is, what our position was, and what happened to them very briefly. If you have any questions about what the details of those bills are, feel free to ask and we can clarify. But we took a position opposing the Colorado Voting Rights Act. The outcome of that bill was that it was passed. We took a position supporting the construction defects and middle market housing bill that was introduced last session. That bill was passed. We took a position supporting a bill whose aim was to increase transportation mode choice and reduce emissions. That bill passed. We took a position of opposition to a bill that was regulating medical nutritional therapy and associated products, and that bill ended up failing. And we took a position opposing a state workers' comp bill, and that bill ended up passing. So that's a summary of the activity that was done during last session on each of those bills, which was the 5 bills that we targeted last year. The way it works is we get probably 95 to 100 bills in a session that are relevant to the city. So the committee works really hard to use their agenda to narrow that 95 down into about 5 priority bills so that staff and the committee members can really focus our attention on those. So for each of those bills, we developed an advocacy position resolution, which provided further detail on the city's position. That was adopted by City Council. And we also produced some lobbying materials. We sent those to relevant members of the legislature and the governor as they were deciding on those bills. So that was a brief summary of our activity from the previous session in response to a question from the commission. That's all we had to share on this issue. But I'll turn it back over to the chair to facilitate question and answers if there are any before we move on to other boards and commissions updates.
Thank you, Cole. I'll start to my left. Any questions from Commissioner Sparks?
No questions.
Commissioner Disney?
So if I'm to understand, based on what you told us, Cole, these things move quickly, and you want input from us. How is that going to happen? How is that going to be facilitated if we may not be meeting as a body? Like, we probably haven't met, but 5 or 6 times so far this year? And if you need input, how do you expect us to convene and discuss that?
Yeah, great question. So the way that we're asking for you to provide input is in your feedback to the legislative agenda. So we hope that by you providing feedback there and us updating the agenda accordingly, we can use that as our kind of North Star, our guiding document, so that as legislative issues related to community development are introduced in the legislature and we're reviewing them, we can look at that document, which has your comments in it, and is informed by the information that you send us, and use that as the feedback to make decisions.
So you're talking about the agenda in this document,
Correct.
but during the course of the year, are you going to seek input from us, or just based on this initial introduction?
Yeah, that's a great question. So because things move so quickly, it'll be really difficult for us to have a back and forth and seek input from you during the session. So that is not our intent to do that.
Okay.
That's why we're coming to you now, so that we can get your input in the form of a legislative agenda update, because it just won't be feasible during the session.
Thank you.
Can I add something to that? Because I think it's a really good question. So everything Cole just said is correct. One exception to that, which we haven't mentioned, would be should the city decide to introduce its own bill. That probably, we're not anticipating any this session, but if we were to be evaluating bill introductions in between the sessions, if it was relating to the purview of the Planning Commission, it could be something that we would bring back. That's a hypothetical, but there is a possibility that the city could decide to introduce legislation because we feel like there is something that is or is not being done at the state level that is critical to our implementation of our hopefully soon to be adopted city plan. So there could be instances where we do come back like that.
Commissioner Holland?
Thank you, Chairman. So thank you for bringing this to us. Very interesting stuff. I think that one comment and then maybe a couple of questions. One is, I know you suggested we were most involved in the community development piece of this, but I would argue like this committee has talked about a lot of the issues in here. And so to the extent that there are bills that address the other ones, I think the committee would appreciate being informed of all of those. That might have been your plan anyways, but, and then I just was curious, the language is, rightfully probably a little vague until you look at an actual bill. But I'm wondering if you modeled any of this off of other legislative agendas, or like the process of how sort of the proposed legislation and proposed legislation came together?
Yeah, that's a great question. But to clarify, we would be happy to take comments from committee members on any section. We were simply directing you to that one because it was the most pertinent, but as you stated accurately, due to the purview of your commission, you folks touch on a lot of the issues that are described throughout. So if you do have the opportunity to look through other sections and provide feedback, we would love to receive that. please get those comments to your staff liaison and they will forward them my way. Now, in regards to the process for how the proposed and opposed was developed for the first year, what we did was we took a look at the Colorado Municipal League's positions on these things, and then we took a look at the city's adopted plan, and then we tried to get input from community development. We knew that they were working on a new city plan, so we tried to get some feedback from what we've heard from residents in that area to help draft it. And then I made the first draft using those materials. We had our community development director review it, and then we had it brought to city council after it was reviewed by the legislative committee, and then it was adopted by the city council. So that's the process for how it was developed in our first year. And for the second year, we're really excited that we're able to bring the document to each of our boards and commissions so that we can get more of a holistic input on its development.
Sounds like a lot of work. Thank you. One other question I had was, I guess, maybe more philosophical, but is there a scenario? A lot of these I noticed start with this idea of no one size fits all, which I can appreciate that we want some control. But is there a scenario where, you know, minimum standards for affordable housing, for example, would be welcomed by the city at a statewide level?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so I think, and it leads into part of the reason why we developed the legislative committee. So Colorado Municipal League, they have to represent every single city in the state. So if there's any sort of minimum standard or minimum requirement or minimum burden on any city, they will blanketly oppose it, as they are right to do. But the legislative committee and their work reviewing bills allows us to take a more nuanced and sometimes different position from the Colorado Municipal League. So there may be opportunities where there are those sorts of minimum standards that the city might welcome in a difference of position from the Colorado Municipal League.
Thank you. No more questions?
Thank you. Commissioner Gaby.
Thank you. Well, this is very interesting, and I have a few comments just kind of about, you know, this effort and then also kind of specific to my role. And, you know, just first off, I think it's, you know, it's interesting that, as you indicated, this is the first time, apparently, that the city has developed a legislative committee, which I think, you know, speaks to kind of some of the developments that have happened on the state and local level in Colorado. And so it's a fascinating time. And I really encourage this approach of being proactive and, you know, not simply just responding to what happens at the state level, but rather trying to develop positions and anticipate these things and try to influence the outcome. You know, I find myself in an unusual position with this one because as I think some of you know, I work as staff for legislative council for the Colorado legislature, and we are a nonpartisan staff agency, of which there are a few down there. And because of the unique kind of structure and role that we have, I personally am refrain from taking, you know, any public position on any bills, because it's important as nonpartisan staff that we don't compromise our work as it applies to all 100 members of the legislature, of the General Assembly. So, you know, I will engage as to how is appropriate in this effort. You know, I will say that I do have some expertise on the process, you know, and in particular on public input, public testimony, you know, how the public engages, and that could be lobbying efforts, you know, anywhere or from individual citizens, whatever. So, you know, I'm happy to be a resource, but it does prevent me from probably weighing in on some of the policy side. but I do appreciate the way that this is structured, and I especially appreciate how Councilmember Hulteen, how you indicated that you're bringing in the boards and commissions of the city, because I know that there's a lot of untapped, expertise or opinions that have merit that from our volunteer, all of our volunteers here in the city. And so I think this is a really, really excellent effort, and I commend you all, and happy to be a resource however is appropriate. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Quinones?
I have no question.
All righty. And Commissioner Woods?
So first of all, I really commend the effort, and I really appreciate, Cole, what you said about the city wanting to develop their own voice and their own agenda and own set of standards, because back to Commissioner Holub's comment, one size doesn't fit all, and we are a big state. And so to have a monolithic voice that speaks for everyone, a lot of the times, I think it does go that way, and that works fine, but not always. So I think this is wonderful, and I truly commend the effort. And one question that I had is, I guess this document is a little lengthy for this purpose, but I wonder if any thought might have been given to maybe something more abbreviated actually being provided to legislators prior to or at the beginning of the session, so they have some basis for looking at how a western suburb city in the metro area thinks. So that's just one thought. It's such a great document, and there's so many good things in it that I have to think there's a lot of good use for it. And so anyway, that was one thing. And then I was also curious in going through and choosing the bills that you reviewed and taking positions and putting things together. Was testimony provided? I know that's always a big step, and it's time consuming to do that, but I was just curious. I mean, this is already monumental steps for the first time.
Yes, testimony was provided. So Councilor Larson, on behalf of the Legislative Committee, provided testimony in opposition to SB 25001, Colorado Voting Rights Act. And then staff provided testimony in opposition to HB 25-1300, the workers' comp bill that was introduced last year. And there was another one where our mayor provided testimony in support of HB 25-1272 related to construction defects and middle market housing. So it was the first year, but we were very active.
I think that is really fantastic. I am forever proud of our city, honestly. That takes a lot to pull all that together and get it done. And it's great to have a voice.
Can I add a little bit to that, to both of your points, Commissioner Wood? One of the things that's been exciting about forming this committee is that our legislators who happen to live in Wheat Ridge are actually really excited to have a committee to engage with. And the 2025 House Majority Leader Duran, who lives in Wheat Ridge, she and I are planning on meeting the Friday after our legislative committee so that I can convey to her in relatively real time what are the discussions we're having and what are those priorities. So being able to have that type of focused real-time engagement with our elected who are representing the constituents that I represent in our city and then they represent at the Capitol, having that close affiliation and staying in real time. And an example is we opposed SB 001, which was the voter right, because it conflicted with the interests of our city. Not that we are not in favor of extending, voter rights, but Representative Duran actually took our position very seriously, and as the House Majority Leader, had a lot of hard conversations with her colleagues. Ultimately, she did vote in support of it, but she took our position and socialized it across her party and her colleagues so that they understood that position. So I'd say that's an example of the impact we can have when we not only take the position, but are in close dialogue then with our legislators to make sure that they're listening to us and conveying our interests to their colleagues under the dome. So
Thanks, Cole. Thanks, Councilman Hulteen for bringing this to us. I kind of want to single out Councilor Gravy on his transparency and honesty for bringing forth what you did. It just shows the integrity of the community, and I really appreciate the legislative committee, because most of the time you can just go with like the big one that we have, and this gives Wheat Ridge an extra voice, I think, where when we're aligned with the municipal league, that's great, but when we differ with it, we actually have a voice that we can go to our legislators with, and I think that's just shows how good this council has been in the past and will be going towards the future. So appreciate the input. And I think it's really cool that you're going to all the different committees and commissions to get their input. I mean, that just shows you guys are very active and the council's very active. So appreciate that. And Cole, you said we got to like October to get comments we got back on this, right?
Yes, end of October would be fantastic.
So great. Thank you very much. If you don't have any more, we can, if nobody else has any more on this, we'll move on to the
Great.
next one.
Yes, fantastic. And I've got the next one as well.
You're up, my brother.
Yeah. So the next issue that I would like to speak with the Planning Commission about is updates to your bylaws. Some of you may have been on the commission about a year and a half ago when the city did a very comprehensive update to our boards and commissions code, which regulates the number of unexcused absences you may have, what the process is for removing any boards or commissions members, what their terms are, and we did things like introducing term limits, modifying some of those other things, creating a boards and commissions code of ethics that all boards and commissioners are required to adhere to. And then after we passed the ordinance, we came to every commission and we had them update bylaws that were compliant with those changes to our municipal code. Since it's been some time since those were implemented, I'm returning to every board and commission to check in, see how those changes have been received by the commission, and see if there are any additional changes that the commission would request staff make either to their bylaws or to the municipal code. Included in the memo that I was able to send you were a few pointed questions that we'd like the commission's feedback on. Specifically, we'd like your feedback on the new unexcused absences requirement. The regulation there is that absences are excused if they're due to illness, emergency, force majeure, or if the member provides at least 7 days notice to the chair and staff liaison. All other absences are considered unexcused. 2 of those absences in a 365-day period results in automatic removal, although the board may vote to reinstate an automatically removed member. So we'd like feedback from the commission on whether or not that's working well, if the 7-day notice period is appropriate, or if you think it should be shorter or longer, if the 2 unexcused absence limit has been reasonable or if it should be adjusted. I'll pause there to see if you'd like to answer that question before I move on to the other 2.
Commissioners, any comment on that? Commissioners? Excuse me.
Hey, I've sat on a lot of different boards, so I'm giving this from the lens of past experience. I think that for excused absences, the employer requirements, being full-time employed by other parties, I don't just sit on planning commissions. I think that takes a lot of weight. I recently let staff know that I did have a requirement during one of our upcoming planning commission meetings. I did get that within the 7-day time period, but I'm just stating is that you should probably consider that as one of the instances, along with illness and emergency and force majeure. Employment is important to pay for living here for me. There's typically 3 unexcused absences allowed on the past boards that I've sat on. I'm not saying that we need to be the same as other boards, just for considerations. And then also, instead of automatic removal, it typically was a letter to council or the appointing board, which I believe is the council here as well. So it didn't automatically eject someone from it, that there was another consideration by other folks as to whether that person was being legitimate, participating in the planning commission, how they were able. And that is my notes. Thank you.
Any other comments on the poll? Commissioner Gravy?
Thank you. Yeah, I will, couple quick thoughts. I think that, the effort when it was made, as you referenced, a year and a half ago or whatever, was overall very positive for the city. I think it, encouraged more folks to get involved ultimately, which I think is super positive, and I think it did have that effect. I do think that the 7 days might be a little short, only because, staff is always very good about communicating upcoming meetings. And so, there aren't surprises. However, to Commissioner Sparks' point, we all are busy folks, and, there may be an instance where you'll get, the reminder email, from staff saying an upcoming meeting, and, it could run up against that 7-day from time to time. And I just think that there might be an instance where a commissioner has maybe, for whatever, reason, kind of slipped the mind on a specific date, sees the email, and it's already kind of at that 7-day. And so, I would try to, allow for a little bit more grace, unless there's like a reason that I'm not thinking of that the 7-day was selected. The other thing that I think to think about, which I'm sure you all do with this, is, you want to have that balance of making these not so strict that you are inadvertently creating vacancies where there may not be enough folks to fill all the positions, and you don't want to find yourself in that position. But, I think since these changes have been put in place, we haven't run into any issues with them on this body. And so, they don't seem unreasonable in practice. But I will say the 7 days seems like it could maybe be moved to 10 or something, if that doesn't impact other, I don't know, reasoning for making the change. And otherwise, I don't have any problem with how it's written now. Thanks.
Commissioner Holland?
Okay, now I have to weigh in. So as a commissioner, I've struggled a bit because I travel a lot. Some of it for work, and usually I know my work schedule ahead of time, but not always. And so I'm comfortable with the 7-day. I haven't had any issues so far personally. And like you said, I think our commission has been fine, but I would be nervous about making it any shorter, simply because if employment is not included in here, then that 7 days becomes more important. If employment is included as a excused absence within that time frame, then I have no problem extending it. But I think it should be one or the other, just to allow for folks who either don't have consistent schedules or can get put on or taken off schedules, again, to make sure that we have sort of a democratic way of involving people who don't just have 9-to-5 jobs.
again, Mr. Grady?
And yeah, I'll clarify my point because I think it wasn't clear, but, I wasn't indicating that we would require additional notice, rather than, it could be in some instances, if we want to get into this, that, less notice would be appropriate. I don't want to make it, my comments were not intended to make it more likely for an unexcused absence to occur, because I think I misspoke on that, and I apologize for the confusion.
Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Disney.
I was just looking through the bylaws, and I don't see in here, and somebody may see it, the length of term for a commissioner. Is it included in the bylaws, or is that somewhere else?
That's in the municipal code.
Okay.
So the bylaws are meant to include mostly everything that's not in the municipal code, if that makes sense. That way, if there's a change to the municipal code, we don't have to come back and update your bylaws. Yeah, it can make things a little confusing because you're supposed to be able to read this document sometimes and get all the information, but it's in two different places.
Any other comments, questions? I haven't seen an issue with anything. Cole, I'm going to come to this, and then all of a sudden I get sick working into this. Like all of a sudden last night I had a bad clam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you would you would just inform your staff liaison that you were unable to make it because you were sick, and it wouldn't count as an unexcused absence.
Very well. That's all I have. Carry on, my friend.
Yes, so the next question was related to the chair's term. This is a request that was made from another commission. Currently, our code states that each board or commission must select a new chair every year. The chair shall be responsible for presiding over all meetings of the respective board or commission. The question that we would like you to consider is if you feel like that 1 year term is appropriate, or if it should be expanded to 2 years, or changed in any other way.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Sparks.
Again, from the lens of serving on others. So usually it is a 1 year term, and I know that we have always taken the stance in the past that the chair would be able to spend 2 years in that seat if they so chose. So we still elected every year, but typically had them seating for 2 years in a row. As long as it doesn't preclude folks from serving more than one term in a row or 2 years in total, I think that it's fine to let it stand as a 1 year term.
And just to clarify, the way it is written currently, it would prevent a chair from serving 2 consecutive 1 year terms.
Then I would respectfully suggest that you change the language so that they may serve 2 years at their discretion if they're able and willing.
Commissioner Disney?
Well, I can honestly say that I would have preferred, no, I'm kidding. I think 1 year, 1 year is sufficient. If we want to have 2, is that what you're saying? They should be able to serve 2 if they want? I think that should be left up to the individual. 2 years is fine. I don't know.
Commissioner Holub?
Just one question. If our terms are 3 years and someone was appointed chair in their last year, how would that work?
Yeah, so if they were appointed to a 2 year term in their last year, then they would serve their 1 year as a chair, and then when they lost the position, you would vote on a new chair.
Okay, so easy solution to that.
Commissioner Grady?
And so just to clarify, it seems that it would be reasonable to allow for 2 years if they were voted, through that process by the commission for a second term. I think holding the vote every year makes sense. And, in the interest of giving everybody on the body the opportunity to have that role, that, it's a reasonable reason to have that. It's a good reason to have that 1 year, but maybe allow for 2 if that person gets all those votes. That's my thought.
Commissioner Quinones? Nothing? Okay. Oh, Wood?
I defer to those really who have been serving for some time to really assess how the system is working. And I appreciate your comments tonight, so I'm going to stop right there.
Okay. I kind of think that I should be here for life. No. I well, I got to win first. So I agree with like a 1-year term with if you get reelected by your peers for an additional year, I think a 2-year maximum consecutively would be appropriate. I kind of think, just my 2 cents in there. If your peers think you're that great, then just keep going. But I do like the idea that like a maximum, so we give somebody else a chance. I mean, because somebody else can make a fool of themselves at this in this position would be great. Thanks, Cole. Anything else, brother?
Just a general question. If you were able to review them, the bylaws, if there was any additional questions or concerns about those bylaws that you might have, or any additional comments about changes that you'd like to request, we'd be happy to receive those now.
Commissioner Grady?
This is super minor, but I just had noticed that Article 2, Section 5, it references subsection B, but there only appears to be a subsection A. I don't know if that was a result of, changes that have been deletions or something, but I don't know. About the executive session process.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that.
Cole, is there a time limit on when you want some feedback on this so we can digest? If someone digests this a little more, I haven't read the whole thing completely yet, but I don't see anything my eye is not nearly as fast as Commissioner Grady.
Mr. Chair, may I?
Yes, ma'am.
So one of the things I noticed in these particular bylaws, it just simply states that time may be limited by the chair. Some folks are really verbose and they repeat things that other people do, and this isn't one of those situations where we're in legislature and we're trying to break people down by talking to them. So I suggest that possibly adding what that time limit should be unless otherwise changed by the chair. This way it allows for the public to have that even platform if they do read bylaws, because some folks do read bylaws to figure out what platform they're getting on. I do appreciate that you also put it in the agenda, which is super helpful for folks in the public as well. But just reversing that, instead of time may be limited, say time is limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise allowed by the chair.
Without dragging this on, I'm just remembering the public right to speak is a 3-minute, but when they're giving testimony on a specific item, there was no limit unless we have a whole lot of people here, and then I think the chair can limit it to a couple of minutes or make a limitation on it. Is that how it's set up now, and is that an ordinance, or is that just Bob's Rules of Order kind of thing. Well, I think that's what we all adopted too, was instead of Robert's rules, it was Bob's, if I remember right, which I'm testing my memory bank here. So because I appreciate the comment by Commissioner Sparks, I just want to make sure that we don't have an ordinance or something that guides that.
I'm not quite sure what the authority on that is, whether it's in your bylaws, the code, or if it's just the rules of order that you've adopted, but I can certainly look into it.
Thanks.
If I may follow on to that,
Yes.
I think in all fairness, it should be the same amount no matter the hearing. No matter if there's a lot of vocalization ahead of time with emails, et cetera. Fair platform, no bias, everyone gets the same allotment. And then if you feel that as chair, someone has a specific relevant point that you want them to continue past the 3, then you as chair have that discretion.
Yeah. Well, I know in my previous life as at the union meeting and when I was the president there, they gave everybody 7 minutes and one time to go around and then no more than 2 times to go around. So, yeah, so, but I understand. I agree that, the 3-minute on the public's right to speak when they're given testimony, the same consideration would be. And I thought that's how it was, but we had something here one time and I was schooled that there was no time limit on that testimony, I thought. So, but anyhow, good conversation. Anything else, Cole? Oh, back to my original question. Is there a time limit that we can get this back to you if there's any changes to be made?
Yeah, if you could also get these back to me by the end of October, that would be fantastic.
Perfect. Thank you. Anything else from you folks? Great. Jana, back to you.
Thank you. Force of habit, I went from old business to new dates, but I appreciate Cole and Councilor Hulteen coming this evening and going over quite a lot of extensive information. So, but at least we've got some time to review it. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, so moving into new business, the dates. Our next date coming up is September 18th, and we will not be having a meeting. That meeting has been canceled for lack of agenda items. The date after that is October 2nd, and I believe that has also been canceled for lack of agenda items. October 16th, we do have 2 items planned, so I hope with the exception of Commissioner Sparks that the rest of you can make it, but do let us know when Tammy sends out the email if you cannot, so that we make sure that we have a quorum. And those are as far out as the dates that I have at this point.
I'm sorry, you said there will be a meeting on the 16th?
There will be on October 16th.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Project updates?
I don't have any project updates from the last time that we met. Thank you.
Any commissioner updates?
I have one. I played in the local works golf tournament today, and it was a fantastic event. I left before they announced how much money they raised, but it was a lot of fun and another really well-run event by Local Works. I just want to give them a shout out. It was amazing how many people were there and everybody had a good time.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate everybody's effort tonight. And, Commissioner Hull, go right ahead. I'm sorry. I'm terrible tonight.
Did you want to go first? Okay. I just wanted to let everybody know that this Sheridan safety study recommendations have come out, and recommend that we all take a look at those and give our feedback as they are looking at improvements to that corridor that borders our city.
Where do you find that?
The Dr. Cog website. They will also be at the Dragon Boat Festival this weekend and at Lakewood Cider Days if you want to I don't know what they're going to be showing there, but I assume it'll be more visual than just on your screen.
Commissioner Woods?
All right, I was not sure I was going to share this or not, but the grand opening, the ribbon cutting, for the Greens on 38th is on Saturday morning. The Zumba class that I go to at the Wheat Ridge Rec Center, they're going to do the class at not early, it's 11:30 in the morning, but it's a fabulous class. So if anybody's interested in Zumba, you guys should come. Sherry's the instructor. She's great.
Great. Commissioner Disney, one more?
And this is a personal plug. September 13th, the Glens in Lakewood, which is a neighborhood, has an art walk. And I will be there with some of my oil paintings, which are for sale. So I'd like to invite you. And then it's the whole neighborhood. I don't know if you've ever been in that part of town, but it's no curb and gutter. It's neat old houses. And all kinds of artists will be there, not just me. It's not just for me, it's for lots of people. But anyway, I will be there.
We thought it was just for you. Yeah, if I remember right, that was designed back in forever ago, like around a Scottish glen. And you can get lost in there very easily. I know for a fact. If there's any other commissioner reports? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Leave.
Motion approved, 7-0.
Thank you. Have a great night. Drive safe.